Hey, well, good morning. Catalina People's Church's Pastor Johnstone coming to you from my own home office. I don't shoot from here very much, but thought we would look at the second half of Psalm 7 this morning for our Tuesday devotion, starting in verse 10. This is a psalm that talks about God's wrath, and it's often not popular to talk about that anymore or to avoid it, or even in some circles to deny it, but because we take the Bible seriously, we recognize that the wrath of God and the anger of God, and even that anger and wrath of God that brings about justice, is important to understand. We trust in, we look to Christ and His grace, but that grace and the grace that was given us in His cross is exactly the place that God poured His wrath out on His Son that we might have that grace. And it says in verse 10, "My shield is God Most High, who saves the upright in heart. God is a righteous judge, a God who displays wrath every day, displays His wrath every day. If He does not relent, He will sharpen His sword. He will bend and string His bow. He has prepared His deadly weapons. He makes ready His flaming arrows. Whoever is pregnant with evil conceives trouble and gives birth to disillusionment. Whoever digs a hole and scoops it out falls into the pit they have made. The trouble they cause recoils on them. Their violence comes down on their own heads. I will give thanks to the Lord because of His righteousness. I will sing the praises of the name of the Lord Most High." So a couple of things here. David recognizes that the Lord is a Lord who cares about justice and who will bring justice, not simply for the righteous, but for all. At the end of time, even if the unrighteous might not stand in His judgment, He will make right all injustice, whether that's been injustice done by the evildoer or whether that's been injustice done by the righteous. The Lord Himself, and this is an amazing thing, stands ready to bring justice and righteousness. And He says that in verse 11. God is a righteous judge, a God who displays His wrath every day. If He does not relent, and this is sort of a picture, a pointing of the gospel, He will sharpen His sword. He will bend and string His bow. He has prepared His deadly weapons. He makes ready His flaming sword. So the Lord is prepared and will bring justice. But who will that justice be given to? Well, verses 14, 15, and 16. Whoever is pregnant with evil, conceives trouble and gives birth to disillusionment. Whoever digs a hole and scoops it out falls into the pit they have made. The trouble they cause recoils on them. Their violence comes down on their own head. Those who are evil and those who do evil, those who disobey God, those who do not believe God, they will receive the just reward for their disobedience. Part of what we recognize, not in this psalm, but in the Bible itself, is there are no neutral people. People are either following and loving God because He loves them and He's worthy of their obedience and their love because of His love and His law, or they are turning away from God and are hostile to God. Even if to us they seem nice and sweet, people are either followers of God or they are turned away from God. And they will get what they deserve. That's why the language is, whoever is pregnant with evil conceives trouble and gives birth to disillusionment. Whoever digs a hole and scoops it out falls into the pit they have made. The trouble they cause recoils on them. Those who receive this judgment are worthy of the judgment. One of the hard things that we recognize, and I'm sure this is true for some of you, is that the scriptures are clear that we're all sinful and therefore we deserve God's wrath. And even as we look at our own sin and look at other people's and don't see the inside of their hearts or know all of their lives or thoughts, we can think, gosh, I feel worse than them. They look innocent. And yet the scripture is clear that God's judgment comes to those who deserve it. And who deserve it? All who don't trust in Him. All who don't look to Him. All who don't bow down to Him. And it's interesting that in the midst of this understanding of God's justice and His wrath, verse 17, He will give thanks to the Lord because of His righteousness, His zeal for judgment. He will sing the praises the name of the Lord Most High. He will worship the One because He is the one who will bring righteousness. All of us need justice. All of us need to be forgiven for the injustice we have done. All of us. And we look to the Lord. And those who do evil and turn from the Lord will be punished. But those who know that Their shield is God Most High. What's interesting about his beginning, right? Back at the beginning, my shield is God Most High, but I need shielding from even his wrath. He is the one who shields me. In verse 1, he is the one I take refuge in. The one who is full of wrath, the one who will judge the unrighteous and those who deserve it, is the very one I'll need to look to be my shield and to be my refuge. It's a beautiful picture of the gospel that the one on whom the wrath of God was poured out on, Jesus Christ, is the one in whom we can take refuge and find strength. And in that reality that justice will be done, we can worship God. Good to be with you this morning, Catalina Fiddles Church. Hope you have a good week. Look forward to seeing you sometime, either around town or in worship online or Sunday in person. Or if you're not one of our regulars, you just like to listen, good to talk to you, and we'll see you soon.